Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this event and for day 2 of Discover Fest. Yesterday was a total blast and excited just to keep this whole thing rolling. My name is Jonah from Discover, and today we're going to be talking to Tommy Griffith. Tommy, how you doing?
Jonah, what's going on? Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, it's a delight. I've done one event with you, and it was such a blast. So I was very excited when you were going to be part of Discover Fest. And just to do my little spiel before we dive in for everyone watching, just to make sure you know the expectations and kind of how this is going to go. If you have any questions throughout Tommy's presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat. We can try and answer them as we go, but we will have a dedicated Q&A after the presentation where we can actually get dedicated answers. So if we don't answer your question during the presentation, please ask it again during that time. We'll make sure to get to it. And if anything happens, you have to get up away from the computer, Tommy's moving fast, or life happens around you, don't fret. All of this will be available in a replay. It'll be here on the YouTube page. It'll also be in the Discover event page and emailed to you if you RSVP'd to the event. Also, feel free to, which you all seem very comfortable with the chat, but feel free to call out where you're tuning in from. Yeah, maybe how you heard about Tommy, how you heard about Discover or Discover Fest. Want to call out a little bit. We got tuning in from Alberta, Canada. We got from Hamburg, Germany, from Scottsdale, from New Jersey.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today. And today we're going to be talking about the Profitable Online Course Business Blueprint. And a little background on Tommy. Tommy is the founder of ClickMinded, an online course business with over 30,000 students that has generated over $2 million in revenue. He previously managed SEO at PayPal and Airbnb. He feels weird writing about himself in the third person, but admits that it sounds slightly more epic. Tommy, I love your personality. I love what you do and the whole ethos. And I want to get out of the way and hand it over to you.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Jonah. Yeah, really appreciate it. And so what do you think? Should we just kind of dive in right now? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Well, yeah, thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. My name is Tommy Griffith. We have so much to cover here. We're going to fly through this. Like Jonah mentioned, if you have questions, you can either ask them in the chat or hold off till the end. And we will just get going. If anything is wrong, if the audio goes out or you can't see anything, also let us know. Eduardo, my co-founder, is in the chat. He'll probably say hi here in a minute. So you can, he'll be replying to things as well. And I believe there's a 15 or 20 second delay. So just bear with us there on that. So hello, thanks again so much for coming. I need you to get fired up for this one. It's fairly early here where I am. I don't know where you are, but I need you to get juiced for this presentation. This is an investment of your time. So don't waste it, right? That means close Instagram, close iMessage, close WhatsApp, close Facebook. Sit up straight in your chair. I feel like your grandpa yelling at you, right? Sit up straight and pay attention. Maybe move to a quieter room if you're in a noisy place. Grab a pen and a piece of paper if you want. I personally, this is preference, but I personally like to take physical notes when I'm trying to retain more information, and then full screen this for optimized viewing. If you're actually trying to invest your time here, then actually do it. If you're not willing to invest, then I recommend leaving right now. If you didn't read that, if you're like this guy and you didn't read anything I just said, then the point here is this. If you're not able to commit to these things, it's just going to be wasting your time. So I recommend leaving now. Either commit to this or don't commit to this. We found that the vast majority of people that come to our presentations, when they fully invest, they get the most out of it. So after this 1 hour session, you're going to walk away with 3 very powerful tools if you're interested in creating an online course business. The first is the exact framework that you can use to start a profitable online course business from scratch. The second is a playbook of tactics that you can use to get customers, even if you don't already have an audience. And the third one is all the templates and cheat sheets that you can use to get started today. We're going to give you a bunch of downloadable cheat sheets and templates that you can use right away. You can get started on this by the end of the day. We tried to make this as actionable as possible. And that's what's really exciting about this is a lot of people take this and they just run with it. They start implementing right away. We have a bunch of feedback we've gotten from people who have done this before. Drew Burney, he runs the content at markmanson.net. He said, I have another course idea I'm running through this blueprint. You're not kidding when you say it's more valuable than an MBA. I've done research before, but this just gets everything pointed in the right direction fast. Love it. So we've given this out to other people in the past, and they've had a lot of success with it. It's totally free. So we're going to give that out in the middle of this presentation. So here's what you'll be able to do, right? If you stay towards the end, if you're a first-time entrepreneur, you'll be able to start generating revenue from your business without quitting your job. You don't necessarily have to quit your job if you're working full-time somewhere else. If you're a coach, a trainer, or an instructor, you'll be able to scale your business beyond your local presence and reach thousands of potential customers. You won't have to keep trading your time for money. And if you're an online personality, maybe you're a blogger or a YouTuber or something like this, creating an online course, you'll be able to monetize your audience through a product that you own, and you'll be able to build a sustainable and recurring source of income that doesn't depend on donations. So it kind of depends on who you are, but there's a lot of different angles to take on this, and we're super excited to be able to share it all. So we're going to share this towards the end of the presentation. And then just a heads up, there's going to be an offer to enroll in one of our courses at the end of this presentation as well. All right, cool. So a little bit about me. My name is Tommy. I'm a digital marketing guy. I've been doing online marketing for the last 10 years. I used to run search engine optimization at PayPal and Airbnb. And while I was there, I kind of started this side project called ClickMinded. It started as an offline search engine optimization training course, moved into an online course. I've been doing it now since 2013 as an online course. A few years ago, I was working at Airbnb, and I started this as a side project. And we actually went into the Wayback Machine and looked at some of the old screenshots of what the site used to look like. Here is I think this is the 2012 version on a WordPress site. And over the years, it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. Sort of the right place, right time with this online learning revolution that we're in now, with all these hilariously old screenshots of what the old site used to look like. The online course eventually surpassed my salary at Airbnb and decided to quit and go full time on it. And now we've expanded to something much larger than I had ever thought possible. It's a 7-figure business with more than 30,000 students. What started as kind of customers that were like indie web designers and individual Photoshop experts and individual internet marketing consultants. Now we have massive companies as clients. Well, Volvo, WeWork, Grammarly, Stitch Fix, Liberty Mutual. A couple of universities are using us in their curriculum as well. They're not using textbooks; they're using our curriculum. So it's been a lot of fun. So today, in the next hour, the next 55 minutes, we're going to show you exactly how we did this and how you can get started as well. So before we start, I wanted to share what motivated us to do this. And a lot of it has come down to sort of this pandemic and post-pandemic world that we're in. Since last year, everything is fundamentally very different. The 2020 pandemic started what we think is going to be the most important economic shift in a generation. A lot of this is already happening now. We think that more people than ever are going to start new businesses and new side hustles. And we're just seeing this in the media all over the place. It seems to be happening. The economics of the world are a little bit broken and backwards and messed up right now. And this is a good time to take action on this, right? Humanity is being dragged into the future and kicking and screaming, whether we like it or not. My mom has to use Zoom now, whether she likes it or not. And that is part of the reality. A lot of people have to do things that they weren't necessarily doing before. We have to get comfortable with being very uncomfortable in a lot of new sort of behaviors. For many of us, however, I promise you that this is good news. This can be a massive opportunity for a lot of people. We're calling this whole movement the rise of the little guys. The rise of the little guys. With millions of people looking to learn new skills, there's a massive demand for knowledge, which makes this an amazing time to start an online course business, right? So Udemy came out with a report right at the beginning of the pandemic last year, 400-something% increase in enrollments, 50% increase in course creation, 80% increase in usage by businesses and governments. Ankur, the founder of Teachable, tweeted out a bunch of stats about this last year. All kinds of insane metrics on online course creation within Teachable's business, right? So the number of creators who had their first sale jumped almost 100% right at the start of the pandemic. And then in 2020, 2 creators with $10 million in sales, 56 creators with $1 million in sales. The numbers are pretty astounding. So for me personally, starting my own online course business is one of the best decisions that I had ever made. It allowed me to pay off my debts, generate 6 and 7 figures of revenue, travel and live in some of the coolest cities in the world, work on stuff that I'm passionate about. It enabled a lot of freedom in my own life personally. But if you're looking for resources in order to help you get started, maybe you've done this before. I'm curious if you have done this before, if you sort of looked around, looked for guides or kind of walkthroughs on how to create an online course, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Let us know if you've actually already done this research process. You might be able to confirm for me what I've seen, which is a lot of, kind of shadier stuff. Make $500,000 in a month, passive income in your sleep. It's this kind of less desirable sort of marketing that I'm not a huge fan of. And that a lot of the online course creation stuff that we saw is a little bit make money online-ish, pyramid schemey, which didn't make me feel very comfortable. A lot of these people out there, they use FOMO, they use exaggerated claims, and one too many emojis in their subject lines to try and convince you that starting a business is easy. We're not interested in playing this game. So instead, we're going to do the exact opposite of a bunch of these exciting kind of get-rich-quick sort of schemes. And we're going to teach you how to build an online course the real way. There's a spoiler here, though. This plan isn't that fast. It isn't passive. It doesn't involve any overnight success either. We're going to give you a bunch of tools and resources here. But the catch is you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to do a lot of work. And it's not very easy. So we're going to dive into this now. I just want to set the stage here for this. That none of this is overnight success stuff. It's the exact opposite. And some of the advice is going to be incredibly boring. And you might not like it that much because the ultimate conclusion is going to be crap. Well, now I have to go do a bunch of work. So there it is. If that's not for you, then this presentation might not be for you. Okay, so the online course blueprint, it consists of 3 stages. We're going to dive into these now. First is idea validation, how to pick an idea that gives you an unfair advantage. Next is business validations, how to get your first 10 customers before you even build your product. And the third is scaling your business, going from those first 10 customers to your first 1,000 customers. Then we'll go into resources and Q&A at the end. This is designed so you can start your online course business while still working full-time on something else if you'd like. So we will cover that next. The best part is if you do the work, you can start your business by the end of this week, maybe even by the end of the day. So that should be very exciting for you. Now let's get started. If that sounds good, if you're excited about that, go ahead and let me know in the chat. I want to see if you're excited. Okay, idea validation, how to pick an idea that gives you an unfair advantage. So when you hear the term idea validation, if you've ever heard this term before, many people think it's just about confirming whether or not there is demand for your product. In reality, there are 3 elements that are even more important than market demand. And I want to talk about these. We like to call these customers, markets, and mindset. And so let's dive into this next. Most people's businesses, they attack the wrong customers in the wrong market with the wrong frame of mind. And what do I mean by this? Wrong customers are people whose problems you don't understand. The wrong markets are opportunities that are too competitive. And the wrong frame of mind is focusing on yourself, being a little bit of a narcissist, instead of focusing on your users and your users' problems. So we'll look at some examples here. The wrong customers. How about a 22-year-old kid in university who's buying and selling wedding jewelry, right? That's a person who probably doesn't understand the problems of their customers. How about a 40-year-old married mother of 2 who's an online dating coach? How about an 80-year-old grandma selling college football tailgate beer pong tables? Could all of these people actually be experts in these fields? Of course. I'm stereotyping here a little bit, but you get the idea. It's that, a lot of people just try and jump on an opportunity that looks really, really profitable, but they don't actually understand the problems that their customers have. How about the wrong markets? So that was the wrong customers. Let's talk about the wrong markets. People walk around the world and they try to get business ideas and they say, oh, I love Japanese food. I'm going to start a Japanese restaurant. I'm good at Instagram. I'm going to go make the next Instagram. I love documentaries. I'm going to go make a movie and sell it to Hollywood. And it's this kind of, I hate to be so direct, but a little bit childish, naive mentality. I like to do this thing, therefore I'd be great at this business. And it's not practical. And finally, the wrong mindset, being way too focused on yourself, going for the double Spider-Man and not focusing on your customers instead. So here's an example of an email that I received. It was kind of when we were first getting into this online course creation world. And someone was asking for some advice. And I said, okay, well, what are you trying to do? Who's your customers? This and that. And here's the email they sent. I don't want a traditional 9-to-5 job. I don't want to make cold calls. I want flexible working hours. I want the freedom to work from wherever. I want to see positive results within 3 months. I want to be making $3,000 a month by month 4, $10,000 a month by month 10. And you can we'll just highlight some of these things here, like I want, I don't want. They're not even beginning to start to think about the customer or the end user. They're coming at their entire business from this, the entire world revolves around me mentality. And it's a really, really bad formula. It's a recipe for disaster, because even if you do or do not want these certain things, there's no reason for your future users and customers to care. You're not solving any of their problems. So getting out of this sort of, this is all about me mindset is really critical in the beginning phases, because your mindset needs to shift to, how do I solve really important problems for other people? It's a recipe for failure if this is the route that you're going to take. The first few months and years of your online course business should not be focused about you. I know you're a beautiful snowflake and your mom hugs you every night, but you can't make this about you in the beginning. You have to be focused on solving other people's problems first. You have to be ready, willing, and able to serve other people when you're first getting started. Paul Graham, right, the famous kind of Silicon Valley investor, the founder of Y Combinator, he had a great blog post on this called, the post was called "Do Things That Don't Scale." And he said, you should take extraordinary measures, not to just acquire users, but also to make them happy. Your first user should feel that signing up with you was one of the best choices they ever made. And you in turn should be racking your brain to think of new ways to delight them. On top of that, you have to be willing to get your butt kicked for a little bit. Sometimes it is going to suck. It is not going to be that fun in the beginning when you're solving people's problems. It can be very manual and can be very tough. So please be prepared for this. I don't want to scare you, but I just sort of want to change your mindset on how you should be approaching this problem. So to push your business through the early stages, you need to also be passionate about what you're doing. In general, it's a helpful tool. There's a ton of great business ideas out there, but there's not a ton of ideas that you will personally be very passionate about. Finding the sweet spot was really important for me. And I think a really good way to try and tackle this is to ask yourself this question. Are you excited to work on this idea on a Saturday morning? Maybe you're working full time, you're working 40 or 50 hours a week, Monday to Friday. It's Saturday morning, it's 8 a.m., you're getting out of bed, and are you fired up or not? If you're fired up and you just sort of use that natural barometer, do I want to do this? This is a really good indicator of whether or not you're going in the right direction. Okay, now let's talk about exit velocity and finding your unfair advantage. So when it comes to finding your business idea, it's helpful to think about this concept of exit velocity, especially if you're working for someone else. I'm actually curious, if you're working for someone else full-time right now, go ahead and let us know in the chat. If you're an entrepreneur currently working for yourself, maybe you're not in the online course business, but you're working for yourself, also let us know in the chat. I'm very curious to see what y'all say. So exit velocity, let's define this. This was by Dan Andrews. He wrote this blog post called "Do You Need to Quit Your Job in Order to Build a Successful Business?" And his definition is this. He says, exit velocity is the amount of professional and entrepreneurial momentum you have when quitting your job and starting a new venture. Momentum can come from a variety of sources: investment, capital, experience, anchor clients, industry knowledge, and connections, aka unfair advantage. So this is an important concept here. What he's kind of saying is, you don't have to, a lot of people have this sort of incorrect idea in their head, and they say, I have to quit my job and go all in and fully commit to this idea before I even try. And that just isn't really necessary anymore. You can kind of take baby steps and test the waters a little bit before you fully jump. Many people think they can't start a new business unless they quit their jobs or stop working on their existing business. But your current job or your current business or whatever you're doing right now, whatever you did this morning or whatever you did yesterday, that's not an obstacle to starting your online course. It's a tool that you might be able to use in your favor, right? So here's how it worked for me. I was managing search engine optimization at PayPal. My boss asked me to run an SEO workshop for the other people in marketing. I did it. It went well. I got a bunch of good feedback. And then very specifically, one person said, hey, I really like this because you made a very boring topic interesting. And that was my light bulb emoji moment. I said, okay, maybe this is valuable to people, right? I wonder if I can start a business teaching SEO to startups on the weekends. It was actually my job that was the impetus for creating this kind of online course business. And then ever since then, I kept working for other employers, but I used every opportunity I could to leverage what I was doing in my 9-to-5 job as an unfair advantage in my online course business. I was working in SEO for tech companies, and then I would teach it on the weekends. I was working for these big brands. I would put those logos on my homepage. I needed to train up my colleagues at work. They were actually the first beta users for my project. And then some of the colleagues would use the product. They were the first testimonials on the homepage. So just stop right now. And if you're one of the people who did get a notebook and a pen, think about what you're doing in your day-to-day. What did you do this morning? Are you doing anything at work right now that you could leverage into your online course business? Are you good at something? If someone's paying you right now, you're probably good at something. Can you use that? It could be as simple as my work is cool with side projects and they allow for free copies at the copy machine and free postage. Or it could be as massive as, oh, we have a subscription to a Bloomberg terminal and I can use that. And that's, normally $3,000 a year or whatever. Are there tools that you're actually allowed to use on a personal level? Can you use the company that you're working for, right, as sort of a social proof type of thing? Now, these aren't like legal recommendations. Every company and state and city and country has different rules around working on the weekends and side projects and working nights and weekends. So do clear it with whomever, but the vast majority of employers, and my experience with friends and family and things like that, most employers have been very cool about this when you're honest about it. All of mine were. I was always very open about the side projects I was working on. What skills do you have that other people want to learn? Which problems are you solving for yourself, your company, or for your company's clients? How can you leverage any of the connections you're making at work? What assets do you currently own or have access to? Do you have access to a blog? Do you have access to an email list? Do you have access to a salary? That could be the funding for your online course business. Okay, that was exit velocity. Now let's talk about market demand and kind of sanity checking some of your ideas. Once you have a solid idea, it's time to check the demand for that idea and see if anyone actually wants it. So there's a number of online tools out there that you can use to figure out if anyone wants your product or service. This is counterintuitive, and this is a classic noob mistake, but if there's no competition for your idea, that's not good. That's not good. For whatever reason, people think they have to invent something. They have to think that they have to be, the Uber. They have to be these kind of like late night infomercial products where they're inventing something new, like a back scratcher with a radio on it or something like that. And for the vast majority of businesses, that's not how they work. A way better, way more predictable way to go about this is to solve problems for people that are looking for answers to their problems, not inventing something out of thin air. So if there's no competition for your idea, that's actually a bad sign, in our opinion. Being focused on inventing something new is a classic noob mistake. So here's a few questions to ask yourself when you're going to check market demand, when you're going to check if anyone actually wants what you're thinking about doing. Are there other people offering a solution? Do I have competitors, basically? How many of them are there? How many competitors are there? How are they pricing it? How are they positioning it? Why? Why are they doing what they're doing? What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? What's your best guess at their top line revenue, their bottom line revenue, any monthly expenses they have, and the number of employees they have? If you have an idea, go check how many competitors you have. Put it in a Google Sheet or an Excel doc and put your best guess at what their revenue is, what their expenses are, how many employees they have, why they're pricing it, why they're positioning it, what they're doing well and what they're doing poorly. And if you lay all this out, you're going to get very far into this research process without spending any money. You're only going to spend your time. And this is incredibly valuable, and it blows my mind that people don't do this. If you haven't made a best guess at what all of your competitors are doing, what are you doing? Why haven't you? It's such a clear and obvious sort of next step when you're in this validation phase. Everybody should be doing this. Okay, so that was a lot. We're going to switch over now. We have a downloadable for you. So this is, I believe, in the YouTube description down below if you want to click it. We're also going to post this link in the chat right now. Jonah, if you're there and you could post that, that would be great. I'm going to actually swap over my tab here, and we're going to switch this out. So I'm going to share screen, and I'm going to open up this Google Sheet. And Jonah, can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, we got you. And just to call out for everyone watching, that link is in the comments there. And Tommy, it is coming up, but it is looking like it's squished. Can we try again?
Oh, got it. How about that?
Boom. Love it. That's
Can you see
perfect
it?
there.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Cool. Great. So, if you have this sheet now, you can make a copy. The link should let you make a copy, and go ahead and let us know in the comments in the chat that you can see it, or that you have it, and we will move forward. So a couple things. So the first tab you're going to open up to is the how to use tab. So these are just links to the next 3 tabs down below. So step 1, the idea validation worksheet, that's going to drop you over here, right into this tab down here. Step 2, right, the business validation sheet, this just going to drop you into the second tab down here. And then step 3 is over here. So we're still on idea validation. Step 2 and 3 we're going to do later in the presentation. So idea validation. So the idea here is, if you're still in the what's my online course going to be mode, this is the sheet for you, idea validation. So first, customers, markets, and mindset. That's the stuff we just talked about. And you can go in and write these things out. So here are the instructions in column C. Customers, write a potential customer and the problem they're facing, write a market you'd be competing in, and write down how you can help those people solve their problems. So here's an example. The customer might be brick and mortar business owners who depend on in-store sales and have little to no digital presence, mom and pop kind of brick and mortar businesses. The markets might be advertising and digital marketing for local small businesses. Maybe it's a coffee shop down the block that doesn't even have a Google My Business profile. They're not showing up when people type in coffee shops near me. And the mindset here needs to be, okay, my mindset's going to be, I want to help entrepreneurs transition to e-commerce, online services, and a stronger digital presence. That would be the idea here. So you can go in and type all of your ideas in these other columns as you move along. Now let's talk about unfair advantages, right? Finding your unfair advantage. This is the stuff we just talked about. So we can look at the instructions here under skills, problems, connections, and assets. What skills do you have that others want to learn? Which problems are you solving for yourself, your company, or for your company's clients right now? How can you leverage your connections to grow your business? And what assets do you currently own or have access to that can help your new business? So here's a bunch of different examples for you. You can go ahead and fill this out on your own, but it's just a structure that you can sort of follow as you move along. Finally, and we don't have time to go through all of these, but we've listed out our favorite tools that you can use to check market demand. And this starts at the bottom of this sheet. So first up is Google, and you can follow all the instructions here. Try to think about the type of things your ideal customer would be searching for, right? What are your customers Googling? And think about what they would be typing into Google, and then take a look at some of your competitors that are ranking there. Take a look at some of the keywords that they might be searching for. Check if people are advertising on those terms, right? You can use Google to do that. Amazon, a bunch of different options for you here with Amazon. YouTube, Yelp, Craigslist, Reddit, Facebook groups, KW Finder, and Ahrefs. These are our 2 favorite SEO keyword research tools. We recommend taking a look at these. Udemy is another good example as well. Look at other online courses that are already out there today. So these are all examples of things you can use to validate market demand without spending any money or very, very little money with trial accounts and things like that, and check that market demand. What a lot of people do, the mistake they make is they just kind of have a shower thought and they say, oh, I'm going to make a course about whatever it is because I like that. And you do not want to do that right away. You do want to kind of check the market demand before jumping off into the deep end. And you can do that with all the tools we've listed here. Okay, so I'm going to swap over my screen again. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to share this new tab. And now that I'm sharing it, Jonah, can you let me know if you can see still?
It is back up there.
Okay, sweet. Great. Cool. So that was the first tab there. And we're going to jump back into that sheet in a little bit. But I hope that was useful. Okay, so one important reminder before we keep moving. Many first-time founders obsess over this concept of the perfect idea, especially if you're someone who you're kind of hesitating, you have an idea, but you haven't pulled the trigger yet, and maybe you're not even sure why you haven't pulled the trigger yet. It might be because of this. It's this myth of the perfect idea. So I think, and we think, and actually a lot of people much smarter than me think that ideas have very little value on their own, and you should treat them as such. A lot of people sort of overvalue the idea, the myth of the perfect idea. Derek Sivers had an amazing blog post about this, which he called "Ideas are just a multiplier of execution." And the basic idea here is that your ideas are worthless without execution. And he listed out this chart, it's absolutely brilliant. And The point here is that the execution is what actually has the dollar amount, and the idea is just the multiplier on it. So as an example, right, let's say if we go back here, if I have a weak idea, which is a multiplier of 1, and then I have a weak execution, which is worth $1,000, the outcome to me in my business, it's $1,000, right? But let's look at some other scenarios here. Let's say I have a brilliant idea, which is a 20x multiplier, and no execution, which is worth $1. A brilliant idea without any good execution is worth $20. A good idea with weak execution, right? Weak execution is worth $1,000 with a multiplier of 10. So a good idea with weak execution is worth about $10,000. And a so-so idea or an average idea which is a multiplier of 5 with great execution, which is worth $1 million, is worth $5 million. Now, these numbers are made up, right? But this framework, this mentality, I think is pretty spot on, which is that the myth of the perfect idea holds people back so much, and they're sitting around thinking, I have to keep waiting and thinking and getting that perfect idea. And the reality is your execution is far more valuable instead. No one cares about your idea. Stop hoarding your ideas. Stop trying to think you need to keep thinking about your idea. It's mostly about execution. I had this really funny example. I was living in Honolulu, Hawaii, and there was this coffee shop I used to always go to work at that I really, really liked. And they had this like very cute little bulletin board kind of like place where people put business cards and, you know, babysitter available and, you know, looking for someone to mow my lawn, things like that. And this kid had it was near a university, and this kid had put up a business card. And I thought this was so brilliant. I tweeted it out last year, and it just said, I do math problems. You send me math problems, I do them. He didn't have a website. He didn't have, all he had was a Facebook page, an Instagram handle, and a phone number. And this to me is a brilliant example of a so-so idea, an average idea with brilliant execution. It probably cost $1 to get this business started. All you had to do was set up a Facebook page and an Instagram page and do people's math problems and probably send them a Venmo invoice. And this person probably has generated more revenue than half of the I'm going to wait for the perfect idea types of folks that are out there. So don't obsess about the perfect idea. Focus mostly on the execution. This is an example of an average idea with absolutely brilliant execution. Execution is how you can go from idea to a viable business, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, business validation, getting your customers before you even start building. So let's say you've done everything we talked about. You've validated this idea. There's demand for it. There's some competitors. You think you have a unique angle. You'd be excited to work on it. Now let's try and get those customers before you even invest in building. A great idea means nothing if you can't get customers. And so there's a couple of things we can do to sort of hack this system a little bit here. So I've seen people spend years and thousands of dollars building a product based on a great idea, only to launch and get 0 customers. It's awful. It's really, really sad. So before you even build up your online course, you need to know if your idea is worth pursuing or not. And there's some things you can do to test the waters. In our opinion, the only real validation is money in the bank. You can go down this rabbit hole of talking to friends and family who want to encourage you, but they end up accidentally sending you down the wrong road because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And you have to find ways around this, especially if people who really love you and they really don't want to hurt your feelings, they are accidentally going to lie to you and make your life a lot worse. So I know your mom loves you. I know your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend love you, but you can't use them for an experiment like this. You need to use people who are a little bit more ruthless with you, who love you a little bit less. You need to find people who are willing to shoot you straight, to tell you what they really think. And the way to do that is to focus on actual sales. The only real validation is money in the bank. So before you even go and build your product, before you even go and build your online course, focus on getting your first 10 paid customers before you even launch. Asking your friends and family if they would like this idea. It's not good enough, right? You need to ask people if they would want to enroll and then invoice them on the spot. It's awkward. It can be incredibly awkward, I know. But this is very, very valuable because you can actually see how serious people are, right? You can have them pay you on the spot through Venmo, PayPal, Square Cash. If they aren't willing to pay, then you do not have a validated product. Don't focus on the fun stuff. Everyone loves focusing on the fun stuff. logos, websites, business cards. The number of friends I've had that have tried to file trademarks on business ideas that do not yet exist and have no customers blows my mind. You do not need a patent. You do not need a trademark. You do not need a logo. You need a person who's willing to pay you before you get started. For example, right? You could send an email or a text to your family and friends to get going right now before this webinar is even over. You could send a text like this. I've started a new personal training business. I'm offering 3 Zoom consultations and a personalized meal plan once a week. The price is $500 a month, but I'm doing a promo, $99 for my first 3 customers. Do you know anyone that would love this offer? If so, could you forward them this message? You could start this right now in the next 10 minutes, right? Before you even get going, you can really start to feel out whether or not this is a viable idea. If you need help with this, if you haven't done a lot of marketing in the past, a great formula to get started for your pitch, your elevator pitch right at the beginning, price plus benefit plus time is your 1-sentence pitch for your future online course. For $49, I will show you how to apply to 10 Ivy League schools in 45 minutes, price, benefit, time. For $89, I will teach you how to increase your running speed by 15% in 2 hours, price, benefit, time. For $25, I will send you a PDF with the best hiking trails in Northern California that will save you 4 hours of research and planning, price, benefit, time. So this is a really good formula for your kind of 1-sentence pitch, especially if you're doing this over email or text. There's no excuse. You can literally do this today. If you're not willing to do this today, you might not actually be willing to create an online course. So that's a conversation that you need to have with the person in the mirror. Even if you get turned down, even if it's awkward and people say no, you're putting yourself out there and you need to get used to failing and getting back up. This is actually very valuable, even outside of the context of creating your online business. So here's a quick story on how I got my first customers, and it involved a lot of failing. So I had no idea how to acquire my first customers. I had no audience to tap into. This was almost 10 years ago now. So my first move was to print out flyers. I printed out 3,000 flyers. I took a day off work. I walked to every city block of San Francisco with this big thing of duct tape. It was December. It was really cold. I had on this huge jacket, and I was duct taping my flyers up to every lamppost I could find. Halfway through, and I saw some people like walking by me and laughing. I was like, oh God, this is like when I was mowing lawns when I was 10 years old, I was using the same strategy, and I got really embarrassed. Not a huge surprise. This was super dumb. This didn't work. I got 0 users out of this strategy, right? I found the flyer. This is the actual flyer. If you were in San Francisco around end of 2011, beginning of 2012, you may have seen this flyer. So it was the first one. It was pretty public. It was pretty embarrassing, but then I moved on and tried something new. So I ended up finding a hidden gem, which worked for me at the time, which is meetup.com. And so I ended up setting up the San Francisco SEO Meetup. I didn't have really a plan for what to do, but literally anything would have been better than putting up flyers for my in-person SEO course. We found a screenshot on Wayback Machine of what the original group looked like. And so Meetup was a really great channel back in the day to get started. It cost $10 or $20 a month as an organizer. They end up inviting all the people in your city that are sort of interested in that topic. And so within 3 days, I had 100 members, 100 people interested in search engine optimization in the San Francisco area. I created my first event, which was just a happy hour at a bar. I called up a bar and said, hey, I want to bring some nerds by to talk about digital marketing. And then I joined other meetup groups, and I would spam the meetup founders and say like, hey, do you want to invite your group to this happy hour? Come on by. Yeah, we have another screenshot of what that first happy hour looked like. So an extra 100 people came after that event. I found a co-working space, hosted a free SEO class for startups. I set up an Eventbrite, and I emailed the meetup list and sort of got the ball rolling there. And there's another screenshot of that original event. So one other tactic around this, like if you do an in-person event, and you can also do this as an online event as well. If your excuse is, okay, it's the pandemic still, offline events are still hard. This can all be done online as well. So you can apply these either way. I ended up sending out an email saying the course was free. Almost no one RSVP'd. And I was really bummed about that. I ended up sending out another email 2 weeks later saying, hey, we're doing a course. It's $500, but there's 9 free tickets remaining. There were 30 RSVPs in less than 24 hours. So do keep this in mind. right? Sometimes if you're offering things for free, you get a lot of very flaky people. But if you put a price tag on it and then offer discounts, right, you can sort of move RSVPs around that way. It can be quite helpful. So this let me test out the first version of my course with real people. And next, it was time to get customers with the minimum viable product. I ended up finding a co-working space that was willing to do a revenue share with me, and they ended up emailing all of their members. 3 people finally signed up, right? And those were the first 3 users that were acquired. We were officially in business. So this is a kind of a long, drawn-out story. I'm not saying to follow this, by the book, or even to do this again. This might sort of have run its course in terms of being viable now in this day and age. Although Meetup.com, I think, is still has some opportunity there. But the point is, like, you can generate momentum with your failure. You can get things going and keep trying, and sort of roll up into the next win as long as you don't give up. That's sort of the idea here. So with all those failures and all that sort of running around just to get the first 3 users, we've sort of come up with some ways that you can do it way easier than I had to do, way easier than all this running around and all this nonsense and all this free pizza I had to buy for people. So if you already have even a small audience, maybe you have subscribers on a certain channel, maybe you have followers, maybe you already have customers somewhere, sometimes a simple email or a tweet is all you need. Nat Eliason, for anyone who follows him, he's big in kind of the tech world now. Really like this guy. He tweeted out he was really interested in this product, Rome Research. And a little while ago, he said, hey, a couple people have asked for this. I'm going to create a Rome Research course. Do you have any topic requests? I'm going to start working on this. If you want early access to give feedback, send $50 to my PayPal address, only taking 25 people. So if you already have an audience, you can get your first users with 1 tweet, with 1 Instagram post, with 1 email. So if you already have that audience, make sure to keep that in mind and leverage that if it makes sense. Now, if you're saying, I don't have an audience, that's fine. I didn't have an audience either. Remember, I was walking around San Francisco, duct taping my flyers everywhere. If you don't have an audience yet, you need to get creative. There's not really a true tried and tested blueprint that everyone can use every time and it works 100% of the time. But you need to get creative and brute force your way into your first 10 customers. This is the resistance that you personally have to push through. So these are tactics that don't scale well, but they do work when you're first getting started. Everyone's going to have sort of different outcomes here, depending on who you are and what you're doing. Okay, let's switch back over to the online course business starter kit. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pop this back open again and share this other tab. So tell me if you can see my screen, and I'm going to expand this a bit. And Jonah, can you see everything?
Love it. Looks great.
Great. Cool. So now we're in, we still have the link down there if you don't have this already, but if you do have this, you can either follow along just on your screen or open it up yourself. We're on the second tab, step 2, business validation. So here are your instructions. First is your existing audience, right? If you already have an audience, subscribers, followers, or customers, send them a simple email with your pitch. Ask them for payment via PayPal or Venmo or Square Cash or whatever it is. Friends and family. Talk to a few of your closest friends and family. Ask them, what would they pay for you to teach them? What would they like to learn? And then ask them for a payment. This is the really tricky part. And don't take sympathy payments. You cannot take sympathy payments. Here's another friends and family option, number 2. You're basically saying, here's the pitch, either ask them for payments or ask them for referrals. If you don't trust your family to tell you the truth, ask them for referrals instead. Meetups, meetup.com and other similar tools. Great places for this. Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, right? Creating a listing offering for live or in-person training. Facebook groups, LinkedIn, Clarity.fm, Airbnb experiences is a great one. Co-working spaces, or maybe an ad plus a landing page, right? Using Instapage or Unbounce or Lead Pages to create a rough landing page for your offer. So you can go ahead and play with these ideas. We can't go through all of them now because we're running out of time, but that's the sort of high-level idea there that you can follow. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again and pull the slides back up here. Let's see what we got. And there we go. Jonah, can you see my screen? Cool. Yep. And are we still good on time? Yeah. Okay. We got.
Yeah. We're cruising. Okay. We're good.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Cool. So we'll keep flying through this. So just as a reminder, right, as you start to get into the idea validation phase, the only real validation is money in the bank, not pats on the back, not high fives, not Instagram likes. The only real validation It's money in the bank. And I'm serious about this. Stop what you're doing right now and type this in the chat. I will get paid before I launch. I need you to do that right now. I will get paid before I launch. I know there's a 10 or 15-second delay. I'm not moving forward until you type this into the chat. I will get paid before I launch. Go ahead and type it all caps if you want, 1,000,000 exclamation marks if you want. I will get paid before I launch. This is absolutely critical to get going. Okay. Now, scaling up your business. I can see the comments flying in. Scaling your business, going from 10 to 1,000 customers. So after you get your first customer, it's time to think about building your product and scaling up, right? So I struggled a lot with this. You can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to. So before I created an online course, my business consisted of teaching live in-person classes. It was very different than an online course. And I had this very funny moment in time. I called it Sad Saturday. A prospect emailed me. He said he wanted to take the class, but he was only free on one day. And it was March 17, 2012. It was my 26th birthday. It was also St. Patrick's Day, but I had a bunch of debt. I was really desperate to make this work until I said yes. And so it was this really kind of sad moment. He asked for a promo code and I was like, oh my God, fine. I said yes. He says, okay, don't forget to send the promo code, right? It's just absolutely hilarious. I'm still in touch with this guy, Philip. He's the man. He's one of my first users. But I had this moment where, I spent all day preparing for this course for this one user, and everyone was partying that day. It was on my birthday. It was St. Patrick's Day. It's like the biggest drinking day of the year. I'm Irish too. It's like a travesty to not participate in St. Patrick's Day. And I'm sitting there in this dark room talking to one customer about optimizing their site and increasing their traffic. I did out the math, and the whole thing, even though I was charging the user $437, I was making about $150, right? And I had 4 hours of prep time, 8 hours of class time. I was making about $12.83 an hour. San Francisco minimum wage was $13 an hour. So I think I was violating California labor laws working for myself. ClickMinded was the worst company to work for in San Francisco by far. This was not working. So I decided to turn my in-person class into an online course, right? We ended up moving the course from offline to online. At first, I thought teaching offline and teaching online would be similar. For anyone who's created an online course, you'll know that that's dead wrong, that they are entirely different, because creating a digital product is an entirely different business. And so, I really like this idea. Paul Graham mentioned it. He's the founder of Y Combinator. It's this post he wrote called How to Make Wealth. And he has this phrase, write once, run everywhere. And if anyone is a software, does any engineering at all, this will be familiar with you. But if you're not familiar, this is a really powerful, important concept if you're thinking about creating your online course business. Write once, run once is the opposite of what I just talked about. Let's talk about write once, run once. These are essentially businesses where you do a task and you get paid for it. You're kind of selling your time. Teaching someone a lesson in person, write once, run once. Serving someone a meal or a drink, changing someone's oil, driving someone somewhere, selling someone a one-time product or one-time service. These are kind of hours for money, write once, run once ideas, right? With live teaching, everything is write once, run once. Almost all of your time is spent doing the same thing over and over again. Some examples of write once, run everywhere, which is kind of the software engineering Silicon Valley mentality, are things that scale really, really large and far and wide. Creating an app and putting it in the App Store. You create the app and it goes everywhere all at once. Uploading a YouTube video. You have to film it once and then it expands everywhere and can be watched millions of times. Recording a podcast episode, doing a webinar, right? Uploading original music, creating an online course, a tweet, an Instagram post, or a blog post. You sort of have a fixed, finite amount of work that can scale to infinity once it goes live online. This is what makes online courses so attractive. It's not just yet another business. It's not like, a convenient way to also teach piano lessons. It is fundamentally different in every way. You become much more a software engineer than you do a piano instructor when you create an online course. And it took me way too long to figure that out. And if you're serious about this, I really, really, really want you to think about that, because how much it empowers you is astounding. It is absolutely astounding, the reach and velocity that you can get when you create an online course. It's nowhere near the same thing as physically teaching someone in person. And that's why this stuff is so powerful. We're in the very early days of it, and it's super exciting to see what happens next. This enables you to massively leverage your own time and grow your business. You have to do a ton of work up front to create the online course, but then it scales to infinity once it's done. Here's what it looked like when I was teaching in person. I spent the vast majority of my time teaching, delivering the product, and a very small amount of time growing the business. And now it's the reverse, and it's super exciting to be able to have it that way because business grows even faster and even farther. On top of that, the unit economics of online courses are very similar to software products. Every single additional new student that enrolls in your online course has an additional cost, usually of about $0. So your profit per student increases with each additional student. So the unit economics are really, really good here, right? Let's say your first online course costs $4,000 to create. Most people should be creating an online course for $100 or $500. You don't need to be creating a $4,000 course at the beginning, but let's just, for example purposes, let's say your first online course costs you $4,000 to make. You charge $400 per student. Student number 1, you're negative $3,600. Student number 10, you're at break even, right? Student 15, you're at $133 per user, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the unit economics start to scale when you have a digital product. Again, you become a software company much more than an actual live in-person training company when you create an online course. If I'm teaching offline and I had 100 students and I was making $150 per student, I'm teaching roughly 200 hours, right? But if I have an online course and I have 100 students, my revenue per user in this particular case is $360, and that's going up every single time. And my total amount of teaching is just how much time it took to film the course once. That's the basic idea here. Pro tip, you can use the money that you got from your first 10 customers to fund the creation of your product. Yours will probably be a lot cheaper than $4,000, but this is one of the reasons why you want to get paid before you build. You can actually have your early users fund the development of your first product. So here's a blueprint that you can use to build your first online course. We're going to dive back in one last time, and then we will wrap things up. So I'm going to switch over my screen, and I'm going to share this tab one more time. And let's see here. Jonah, let me know if you can see this. Okay.
It's rolling.
Okay, sweet. So here's the last and final tab of this. You should all have this by now, but if you don't, the link is in the description down below. And so building your course, we're on tab 3 down at the bottom, right? So here's your website. And what's the objective? Creating your marketing site. This is where all of your sales pages and your blog will live. These are all of our favorite tools and products that you can use to build your online course. We're not going to go through all of these, but they're just our recommendations. So here's our recommendation for creating your website, right? Using where you should register your domain, Google domain, DreamHost, WordPress, Elementor, right? Your learning management system, right? Teachable, we recommend. You generally want to avoid WordPress plugins. Also avoid marketplaces like Udemy and Skillshare. It's a conversation for a different day. Your checkout or your affiliate program, right? We use ThriveCart. Samcart's another good option. Email marketing software, lead capture software, video recording and editing software, course slides, course downloadables, resources, certifications, quizzes and tests, live classes, outsourcing, and any other stuff that we generally use as well. We've been doing online courses for 10 years. I really wish someone would go back 10 years in time and drop this Google Sheet into my lap. It would have been very helpful. It took us 10 years to build the sheet, but it's yours for free. So we hope you get a ton of value out of it. So I'm going to stop sharing one more time and swap over to the slides. And then we will wrap this up. A couple other things. Okay.
Looking good.
All right, cool. So let's recap this now. Here, before, right? Remember 1 hour ago basically feels like a million years ago when we were first getting started and you were like, who is this clown talking to me? Maybe you were thinking this. You had lots of ideas and no execution. Maybe you were consuming entrepreneurial videos and blog posts that didn't have a lot of practical advice, or kind of these like make money online, make money in your sleep, passive income kind of posts and videos. Maybe you went weeks and you spent a lot of money building products that people don't want. Maybe you had a bunch of sad Saturday moments with someone like Phil, one of my first customers, while trying to figure out how to scale. And now that you have this blueprint, you have a proven framework for discovering great business ideas. You can get real validation. That means money in the bank, and a clear blueprint to build your product and grow out your business. Today, we gave you all that you need to get started. You cannot say you don't know what to do next now. That's no longer an option. You don't need to watch another YouTube video. You don't need to read another blog post. You You don't need to join another webinar. You got to get to work. You got to go to work. I'm being your grumpy grandpa right now. You got to get to work. It's going to take work, but anyone who wants it enough is going to be able to do it. So if you're serious about investing in online courses for the long term, we do have something for you, and I'd love to tell you about it now. We've consolidated everything that we've learned after building our 7-figure course business, and there's no fluff in it. It's only actionable advice. We've packaged it all up into one place. There's no generic recommendation. It's just extremely detailed walkthroughs. There's no fake promises. It's only tactics and tools that we've used in the past to grow our own businesses. So introducing Course Minded. Yes, we created an online course on how to create online courses. It's the single fastest way to create a world-class online course business from scratch. It's a bundle of 2 different products, and I want to quickly talk about these, and then we'll switch over to Q&A, and I'll answer any of the questions that you might have. So the first is our Start and Build course, and the next is our Grow and Scale Your Business course. So I want to talk about these first. First is the Start and Build course. Today was just a small preview of what's included in the Start and Build course. There's many different products out there that claim to help you start and build your online course, but the problem is they focus on what camera to use, what editing software you need, what the right white balance is, right, for your webcam. They leave out the critical and the actual hard work, which is getting traction, getting initial traction for your business. If you're looking for a world-class video editing course, this is not it. Please do not sign up. This is about getting the initial traction for your business. So our Start and Build course focuses on how to validate your idea and get your first 10 customers. Even if you don't have an audience, we go way further in depth based on compared to what we talked about today. Our proven method for creating a bulletproof curriculum that's better than any course, YouTube channel, or blog that's out there. And our framework for creating world-class course content that your students will prefer over watching Netflix. This is what a lot of people don't understand. You're not necessarily competing with other online courses today. You're competing with Instagram and Netflix and all of the dopamine-inducing stuff in our world today. There's a lot of competition for people's attention now. And 4, setting up your entire stack of tech tools so you can start selling as quickly as possible. By the end of Start and Build, you'll be able to start bringing in revenue and creating a world-class course, even if you're working full-time on something else. The next is our Grow and Scale Your Business course. So our team spent over 100 hours. We reviewed every course and product and every claim that we could find of companies that were teaching you how to build an online course business. We found that the biggest gap in everything we reviewed was that they don't teach you how to grow your business and scale your operations. They don't teach you how to scale, which we thought was mind-blowing. This is arguably the most important aspect of any online course business. After your course has been created, the majority of your effort is going to be dedicated to growing, automating, and scaling your business. So our Grow and Scale course focuses on proven course-specific marketing blueprints and step-by-step walkthroughs on how to implement them, how to build a course sales funnel that attracts new customers every single month, how to scale your revenue and operations with automations, SOPs, freelancers, and partnerships. And then by the end of this course, you'll know how to take your online course from the side hustle, or maybe it's something you're doing kind of outside of work hours, to a 6- and 7-figure business. Start and Build, Grow and Scale. It's 2 courses. We just launched them earlier this year. The feedback we're receiving is really, really good. I'm going to fly through these. You can kind of check these out later. We have a bunch of testimonials. Eduardo is also part of Course Minded. He's my co-founder. He's in the chat. He started off as an apprentice with me at ClickMinded. He then worked on growth teams in New York and several New York and San Francisco startups. He was working content marketing at Teachable as well. And he has really learned a lot from this whole process. He worked at Teachable, got exclusive access to figure out how thousands of creators market their courses, including some of the most successful ones in the world. He used all that to help us grow and scale ClickMinded, right? So you can actually see this moment in time, when ClickMinded started to grow a lot. And all of this ended up being Eduardo's house. And this is all, this is when Eduardo joined and helped me turn into, I was kind of the clown on the webcam, and Eduardo was the operations and SOP machine that helped us explode as a business. So we're really excited to share everything we know about the online course business with you all. So both of these courses we're retailing for $1,000 each, right? Our Start and Build course, our Grow and Scale course. And if you're still here, that means you actually committed, you actually listened, you actually paid attention to all this. You weren't our didn't read LOL guy. So I really appreciate you not being our didn't read LOL guy. You stayed the whole time, we got to reward that. We got to help you out. So for this workshop, the folks at Discover, they beat us up. They said, if you're going to do this, you got to offer a discount. If they're willing to commit, you got to help them out a little bit. We actually have footage of the negotiation. This was me and Jonah trading jabs over email. You can see Jonah's absolutely murdering me there. And the negotiation did not go well. I'm not going to lie. And we got, we got beat up. So all in, we have our start and build course at $1,000, our grow and scale course at $1,000. It's a lifetime license. It includes free updates for life, risk-free. It's actually a 30-day money-back guarantee. We'll fix that slide. We changed the pricing. We're currently doing a $997 price on our site. We're really excited about that. But for Teachable Discover, we're offering this for $147, which we're really excited about. So we're posting a link in the chat right now if you want to take it. Just make sure to use, if you're not seeing the $147, use promo code Black Friday 2021 at checkout. If the price is already there at $147, then you should be good to go. You can enroll 100% risk-free. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee. The price goes up a lot when the promo ends. So we're going to switch over to Q&A here in just a minute, but just a couple other things. We get these questions all the time. All these courses include unlimited lifetime access. There's no kind of selling you the next version of it. Whenever we do updates to it, you get those for free automatically in your account. All free updates for life. It's a one-time lifetime fee. So here's what to do next. If you want to take this, go ahead and click that link posted in the chat. We would love to have you as part of the course-minded family. So $147, I'm going to switch over to Q&A. Oh yeah, a couple questions people like to ask. When do I get access to everything? You get access immediately. This is not a pre-sale. It's all done. Can I expense this for my business? Probably most people do, but make sure to talk to a CPA if to figure out if it is a business expense. How long will I have access? It's lifetime access and free updates for life. It's mobile friendly. The courses are more than 20 hours combined of video content. There's no payment plan options. You cannot buy the courses separately. 30-day refund policy, and you can get that refund for any reason at all. So go ahead and click that link if you want to join us. We'd love to have you. And I guess we'll switch over to Q&A now, Jonah. Thanks for putting up with me today.
Well, of course. Thank you so much for your presentation. Also, I've seen so many presentations, and everyone has their own style, but I especially love your value chart. Just a good idea, executed great. Putting in that mindset, I think, is so valuable. And also just the fact that you call out that you're not just competing with other course creators. Your course has to be interesting enough that someone's not going to go to TikTok in the middle of it or stuff like that. It just, those two things especially, I appreciate how detail-oriented you are and how aware of the whole space. It's always a joy.
It's scary, right? When you think about, oh, wow, I'm not just competing with that other person with the Photoshop course. I'm competing with Netflix. Right?
Yeah.
That's terrifying, but you do need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and it's a hurdle, but I think it also means you have to be fun. It's not just about the most information. You have to make something that's entertaining, which means you should be entertaining, which should be fun.
That's right. And Ankur, the founder of Teachable, has actually tweeted about this a lot recently. He talked about, I think that Marie Kondo, the life-changing magic of tidying up author, she now has a Netflix show. And he started talking about how entertainment and education are becoming one and the same. That good education is becoming entertaining. Good entertainment is becoming educational. It's all being mashed into one thing, and you have to keep both in mind. It's not just about delivering the information. You have to empower people. You have to do storytelling. You have to get people excited. So there's a lot there,
which I think is the coolest thing. Why shouldn't it be?
Right? Good point.
But everyone, please pop in the chat, ask any questions you have. We will have to wrap up soon for time just because we got another event here soon. But we got Tommy here for at least another 5 minutes to dive into some questions. And Tommy, I know I wanted to kind of get started. There was a question earlier that Eduardo answered in the chat, but I think it was worth calling out, so it's in the video because it's such a good question, which also just goes into like feeling if you're credible or if you're legitimate. Is it so? Sorry, I had to read the question again. But would you say that not having a higher education is a major setback from starting your own online course business, which a lot of people feel like they don't have the credibility to teach? Like, what's your take on that?
I have so many strong opinions on this. And Matthew, thank you so much for this great question. I can sense in your question that this is a big deal for you and it might be kind of rattling around in your brain, I can guarantee you're the only one who cares about this, Matthew. So I'm just thinking, I personally, so I've taught graduate level education. I think the graduate system in the United States is a scam. I think it's a fraud. I think it's completely unnecessary. The last 5 employees I've hired within my business, I didn't even ask if they went to school. And everything is now portfolio based and work based and sort of point to me, show me what you've done based. I think the old accreditation system is archaic and no longer in use. And this kind of stuff, it is going to depend a little bit on your topic. If you're training high school math teachers, maybe it would come up, but I think it'd be very, very rare, depending on your topic, that anyone would care about this. I think looking at having a portfolio of work, showing what you've done, showing, demonstrable results on what you're teaching is really all you need. And then finally, the big dirty secret around all this, the single fastest way to learn is to teach. And so you are going to have I should have included some of this, but you are going to have a little bit of imposter syndrome when you're first getting going. It's normal. It's natural. Fight through it. Don't worry too much about your credentials. Just focus on creating that kind of body of work that you can point to. Credentialing is a scam. Don't worry about it at all.
Yeah. Well, it's something I appreciate you mentioned too about your own course, but you can update your courses, right? They're not a vapid one-time thing. They can morph and grow as you learn more. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, for sure.
Just want to call out, this is a very practical question, but just where is the link? The link is pinned in the comments and it's in the description and it'll be emailed to you along with the replay. And when is the special pricing good until, Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have 1 week for that special pricing through the Discover link. So
that's right.
You have a little time to think about it, but don't take up too much. And back into some other questions, just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm thinking of setting up a health and fitness course on a monthly subscription basis. How viable is this to scale and grow if each subscriber requires my personal advice and tutoring?
Yeah. So Ali, I think I don't think that scales. I think that's a fine option, but you answered your own question. It doesn't scale.
Right.
I just being honest with you here. There's other ways you can scale. Like some people scale communities where they have other moderators and other teams. But if it's just you, no, it doesn't scale.
So I want to use this as kind of a jumping off for another question, which, like, if in this process that you've provided a free resource, and if in this process you have that shower thought, you go through the process of starting to validate it, and if you reach a point where it's like, oh, this isn't going to work in this way, do you have a recommendation for how you can maybe morph that into a different business? Like, if you want to have a health and fitness business, but this model doesn't work, what's the next step?
Yeah, so it's a good point. I think it doesn't necessarily mean don't start, but in this particular question, Ali's asking is, hey, I want to do something that's incredibly hands-on and manual and personal for every individual user. How do I scale to infinity? And the answer is you don't.
You can't.
Okay. So right. It's in this particular case, you're asking, I want to have my cake and eat it too question. And so the answer is either create an online course that scales to infinity that you can update over time, or create a personal one-on-one consulting business that is a proxy of the kind of old model. It doesn't necessarily mean one is better than the other. I have a preference. My preference is the one-to-many relationship, but this is a have my cake and eat it too question. And the answer is you can't without more employees. Yeah.
Right. I want to call out quick from the 2 events that I've done with you. I also appreciate that you're willing to say when something isn't a good idea, or that like, I imagine in your course too, it's that same energy where it's like, we have to make sure it works before we go into it.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's just about being direct with just having strong opinions and being open about it. Right. I think deep down, Ali knew that. And it's just like, okay, you're right. I was thinking that, but you're right. Thanks for not telling me the dream. Right. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, Tommy, sadly, we have to wrap up, but is there somewhere where people can ask you questions if they're still on the fence, or just is there the best social to reach out to you?
Yeah. So at Tommy Griffith on Twitter. If you have any questions about this this deal, you can email us hello@clickminded.com. Should be fine. And other than that, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you join the family. If you have any other questions, email us hello@clickminded.com, or is there a way that users can message through YouTube or Teachable Discover? Probably not. No. So hello@clickminded.com will be the easiest way. Yeah.
Best to get straight to you. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tommy, so much. And thank you, everyone who's joined us. If you liked this event, please like and subscribe to the Discover channel. We're trying to bring more creators and entrepreneurs like Tommy out to share their knowledge and help us all grow. Also, look at the link in the description. We have the full schedule for Discover Fest. If you came here just for Tommy, thank you for being here. But we also have a full week of learning, and there's all sorts of events about business and marketing, art and language learning. We have a bunch of awesome creators, and you can learn about that there. And Tommy, before we wrap up, I just always like to ask like one closing statement, which is, this may be a little selfish because I'm in the process of trying to build courses too. And I know that there's all of these landmark or kind of roadblocks or points where you find out your idea isn't quite right, or you find out your idea is right, but maybe the people you're asking to buy it aren't buying it. And like, this is totally just a mentality question. When you reach those points where it seems like maybe the whole thing isn't good, like what's the mentality to break through that and to keep going and to figure out a way to put it together?
I mean, I really so you're going to have your personal motivations. Like, I want to grow this big business. I want to go work for myself. Right? You have these personal things, and those should be getting you up in the morning anyways. But what was really exciting for me was when you see the light bulb moments on users' faces, right? And like when you're actually solving other people's problems and you feel like helpful and useful, and you get other people as excited as you are, it's really hard to put even like a dollar amount on that. It's just very exciting. So if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're miserable and you're trying a bunch of things that don't work, just try. It's kind of a Paul Graham thing, but like, just try and delight someone else. Just try and make someone else so happy. And the rest just kind of seems to fall into place. So I know it's a little corny. It's a little like Hallmark Christmas movie kind of thing, but like just making something people want and making other people happy is a really good barometer that you're going in the right direction.
I love that. That's such a good focus. On that note, thank you again. It's been an absolute delight. And thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you all soon. And Tommy, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
See you later.